So now we move on to our last story of the day. And this story is dear to my heart because it is from Africa and our neighboring country in Nigeria, that is the Nollywood industry. And one of the things you cannot take away from Nollywood is how far they have come and how impactful they have been as a film industry, bringing much needed attention to what we are doing here in Africa. And over a couple of years, perhaps within the period of a decade, the last decade, the buoyant film industry drew the attention of some prestigious streaming services to come into the country and invest as much as they can. And we had the Netflixes and the Amazons troop in to invest as much as they can in the Nollywood film industry, extending such investment to the film industry of Kenya, South Africa, and a couple of others. But with time, the expected returns that they were hoping for, together with other factors or reasons, these giants, streaming giants, had to pull out, with one or two, productions being done, from time to time. However, with the pulling out of these industries and the desire to tell authentic African stories, the Nollywood filmmakers decided to find alternative means to make that possible. So they resorted to putting their films on, the platforms like YouTube, even though not the typical streaming service you would think of, but it started working out. But the payment, is, or the revenue generation is not as much as you would have it compared to the prestigious streaming services like Amazon and Netflix. However, in recent times, it looks like Nollywood has found a very ingenious way to generate funding to make their the business possible. And this we find in an article published in the TechPoint website. And this is what he has to say. As streamers pull back, Nollywood turns to brands to keep the cameras rolling. YouTube offers reach but not revenue. So Nigerian filmmakers are selling screen time, and they're talking about nothing else than branding or product placement. So let's go on to read further. When Love in Every Word 2, the latest film from Nollywood actress and filmmaker Omoni Oboli, rolled its end credits, something stood out beyond the cast and crew. A string of brands, including UBA, MTN, Coca-Cola, GIG Logistics, Vaseline, and Close Up, appeared as collaborators and sponsors. Their presence could mark the start of a shift in Nollywood, in how Nollywood sustains itself financially. Over the past year, we've documented the rise of YouTube as an alternative to traditional streaming platforms in Nigeria. This shift comes as Netflix and Amazon Prime have reduced their local participation, forcing filmmakers to explore new sources of distribution. For these filmmakers, while YouTube provides a less lucrative avenue to earn from their art, it also holds a willing audience with low barriers to entry. Even before YouTube became a proper distribution channel, filmmakers such as Funke Akindele and Toyin Abraham had already found success in cinemas as they sought alternative revenue streams. However, that typically comes with major challenges. Movies must be of a high quality for viewers to justify going to the cinemas. Filmmakers must also spend significantly on marketing to ensure a steady stream of viewers, while also contending with gatekeepers who could limit a movie's reach. Compare that with the opportunity presented by YouTube. Once a filmmaker has a movie, they could be up and running in a few hours. So there's a lot that this article says about this new ingenious ways of generating revenue, and I can perfectly understand why filmmakers want to do that. And the demand for storytelling in this era has reached an unprecedented higher than any other era or time in history. with the advent of several social media platforms and with the ability to access it wherever you can with your own device, the mobile phone or the mobile devices, content demand has gotten to a place where there is an audience for any kind of content you can ever create. And for the film industry wanting to also catch up to this particular trend, it is of no surprise that a lot of filmmakers will resort to putting their films on YouTube if the bottlenecks that would prevent them from having their films reaching out would be a problem. They would find ways and means of getting that done. And social media has made it possible for filmmakers to diversify where they could put their films, whether on the premium platforms like in the cinemas or on the streaming services, but also on YouTube's or other social media platforms as well. So obviously you can understand why that would be the case. However, in terms of creating this content, productions are capital intensive, seeing the fact that it is a team effort. And with team effort means that you have to bring in more hands and more talent to make that possible. And as a result of that, this actually increases the cost of production. And fortunately, for putting content on certain platforms like YouTube or social media, the barrier to entry is a little bit low, with audience not so bothered about the quality of production being made. And therefore, as a result of that, a lot of content would have to be made, perhaps 3 films a month on those social media platforms to be able to satisfy the demand made by the audience. And as the audience watches it more and more, it gives the filmmakers the opportunity to make money. However, there is a discrepancy in terms of revenue generation, where in Africa, filmmakers make less, far less, perhaps maybe somewhere 1% or even 10%, um, compared to 100% that filmmakers or content creators in Europe and the Americas will make. And so, as a result of that, to be able to keep on generating enough revenue to to keep your productions afloat, filmmakers have sorted to partnering with businesses who are desirous of advertising their products on in these films. And this has resulted into a number of content creators allowing product placement to be in their films to shore up the funding they need to keep on making these films. So it is understandable. But one of the key things that, or two key things that this article did mention, which I think is crucial, is the fact that because of the limited number of advertisers, it's going to create a possible scenario where these advertisers are all over in almost every production that exists on the continent, or in Nollywood to be specific. And this also is a problem because the amounts they would pay is literally may not be necessarily equal to the potential of the reach of these films, meaning that they will be paying far less, ridiculously less of a value than they should for these particular productions. But if you are in a fix where you don't have much of a choice, obviously you're going to accept it as it is without bothering so much. However, the article also did state that it is a good initiative that has begun now, hoping with the hope that maybe in times to come, more businesses may join in this particular venture, potentially with an international business also joining the fray, which may help boost the financial revenues of these filmmakers. So that is actually good to know. And so we would hope that there's going to be a time where the value of brand advertisement in these particular productions would go up and go a long way to help these filmmakers to make good enough money to make that possible, whether be it putting it on the in the cinemas or putting it on these platforms. So it is indeed an ingenious way, I may say, or I should say, that Nollywood filmmakers are finding ways around to make that possible. And I think this is also happening in other parts of Africa as well. But in terms of the high volumes of it, it is happening in Nollywood as we speak. So let me know what you think. Is relying on brand funding a sustainable future for film industries, or does it risk too much creative compromise? Whatever your thoughts may be, kindly leave it in this comment section below. And generally, in all these three stories that we've spoken about, which of these stories do you think tells us the most about the future of the film industry? Whatever your thoughts may be, kindly leave it in the comment section below.